Cheap Trick!
Holy cow!
Wow.
I know some of you people.
Hey, Kim Ginsborn, the head of our European fan club in the third row back there with a Cheap Trick shirt.
Oh, that's
hot blonde.
He's buying drinks tonight, right?
That's right.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming out here today. What an awesome
I
day.
just happened to be here.
Just roving through town, right? On your way to another gig, probably.
Hey, let's stop there.
We always come to the beach towns to relax.
Oh, that's right. Right on the shores of Lake Erie. Well, look at this crowd we've got out here today, huh?
Nice.
So we're going to give some of the folks in the audience a chance to ask a few questions, but wanted to start off thinking a little bit for you guys about, how you got into rock and roll, and think about the fact that, you're famously known as a band from the Midwest. You guys all come out of that area. What was it like growing up listening to rock and roll at that time in the 50s into the 1960s?
Well, for me, it was just listening to the radio. I listened to the radio when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and by the time I was 12, I started my own rock band.
Not bad, right away, right?
Yeah, right away. Why not?
And Rick, I know you had a very musical family, too.
Yeah, my parents were opera singers, and they also sang religious, and a lot of churches. My dad sang at Lutheran churches, Catholic, Jewish temples,
Whatever the
Baptist, wherever they would, and plus he did opera all over the world. But that wasn't the music that I liked. I appreciated the hard work. I liked Sunday night, going forward a bit, Sunday nights on, it was K-Rock, not the one from LA, it was the one from Little Rock, Arkansas. They used to have the English top 10. And you used to have to, if you were driving in a car, you had to stop to get the signal to even come into you correctly. But that was the first time I heard Jimi Hendrix. But Tom and I actually went to Europe in 1968. We went to England and we bought the White Album, we bought the Beggar's Banquet, we bought a turntable just to use while we were over there, and went to see all kinds of bands, because that was where the influences that we liked the most were from. Before that, I was a drummer, and before that, I lived in the Chicago area, so I liked a lot of blues stuff. Not knowing, but I was a drummer, so that was easier stuff.
Was that blues guitar stuff? Did that help pull you in a little bit to guitar playing?
Well, I liked the feel that the blues guys had more than the technique of the San Francisco stuff. That didn't ring through me.
Tom, how about you?
Well, really, mainly was British Invasion in '64, but really before that, it was, you had people like Dwayne Eddy, Bo Diddley, Fats Domino, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, those were the kind of underground, really scary artists, Pat Boone was big, and Fabian, and all these horrible people.
Rick's dad was a talented guy, but he also had a shop in town where we all lived, and that's where I bought my first instruments from him.
A music shop, right?
Yeah, music shop. And I also did I did a play with him. I did a Nice and White Satin with a full orchestra one time at the Midway Theater.
You did
go online and see that if you want to.
You did the Mikado with them too.
I did the Mikado. So he was always involved in something, and I wanted to be part of that too, because he was like the important guy at that.
Yeah, it was great because he really supported us, and he didn't like the kind of music we liked. He couldn't figure out what the heck was going on, but it didn't matter. He was a musician himself, so he dealt with all sorts of oddballs. So it just was like another thing he didn't quite get. But there you go. He loved music.
It was cool too, because if you wanted to go roller skating, you could also hear my dad play the keyboards at the roller rink with Mansour. See, that's
Right, that's right. Was it like one where they used to have the old organs in the roller?
That's exactly right. All skate.
Or go see him play pool up at.
That's right.
And my father said that, that Robin, he's a fine lad, that Tom's a fine lad, that Bunny's a fine lad, and they even have a fine manager. Oh, well, so he wasn't always right.
He wasn't always right.
But he gave us free use of his garage to practice in, where we rehearsed. And my father also said it's like he couldn't understand how we hit the enthusiasm that we had for being near starvation with no success. I was proud of that.
Right, that's right. I wanted to bring up too, obviously I think, we all know a real important influence for you guys was the Beatles. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe when you first remember hearing the Beatles and why that was such a big influence on all of you?
Well, it was really a cultural thing on top of everything else musical. It was like some people just came down from some other planet, and wow, you just wanted to be part of that. Yeah, it's sort of a Liverpool, but it just was something that's really hard to explain if you really weren't there. It just was so shocking to people and just so inspiring as a kid, as a teenager, like, wow, this is so great. And then you turn around and every adult was like, this is the worst thing they'd ever seen in their entire life.
Which made it better.
It just it wasn't even that, it just made no sense. Like, you didn't understand it. What's not to like? I don't know.
I was listening to Bleecker Street out of Little Rock, Arkansas, radio station at the time that was one of the few stations that covered the whole Midwest. And I Want to Hold Your Hand came over the radio. And that was it. Enough for me.
It doesn't seem so shocking today, but at the time, the American charts were, it actually kind of parallels what happened to us when our first record came out in '77. It was a lot of disco, and it was a lot of stuff that was like, my God, don't they know what's going on in the world? So we started making records because we couldn't, I don't know, we didn't like what's going on. We didn't like I said I could write as crummy as songs as they have on the radio. I proved that.
All the stuff that most of the stuff that really influenced us was not successful and was not commercially looked at.
It's interesting.
It was not, so not all of it, of course, but mostly just it was all kind of underground. And
Yeah, it wasn't just us. I mean, there were the Ramones and the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, all
and
sorts of
these groups along the same era as us that were
Equally unsuccessful.
equally starving.
And then, of course, if somebody then makes it big, then they're complete shit.
We never got involved for making money or, boy, I hope we get this and that. It's like we like to play. When we did play, we played like 3 or 4 sets a night, 6 and 7 nights a week, year round. And that's how we got our chops. That's how it looks like we're not doing much up there, but it's like, and plus Robin's a real singer as opposed to a shouter. And he actually can't, he's great.
Just trying to make it look as easy as possible, and we're succeeding.
Well, let me ask you that because you guys are known as being a band. It's just, you're touring all the time. An incredible live band. But, before...
Sorry, no more questions, better go play.
Before you kind of make it big, before, live at Budokan, you've got records out, but you're touring around, you're doing all the hard work, right? You're playing the gigs, you're playing all the time.
No auto-tune back then.
What was that like, sort of just, having those first couple albums out and just playing your heart out in all those gigs?
I don't think it's changed much. I mean, that's all we've ever done. And that's what we still do. We've got a new record out called Bang Zoom Crazy Hello. We got a brand new tour that's going to take up the whole summer, and then we're going to go like we always do and go overseas and pay attention to our friends over there. So, we're still excited. I don't know why. We're too dumb to quit, as Rick would say.
Yes.
That's kind of an interesting time in rock history, too, if you think about it in the mid to late 70s, because you've got kind of classic rock already kind of developing, but you've got the sounds of, punk and heavy metal and all these things coming up. How did all that other music that was coming out at the same time you guys were making it?
It's like you think around the late 70s and stuff. One time we were on tour and we were playing with Foreigner, and they were it was 77, 78, and Mick Jones went up to the band, and we'd go backstage, and what's his name? Singer? Lou. He'd be standing in front of the mirror, getting ready, and putting his key in his pocket for, gonna throw out my key. It's like, and the bass player, they were like doing these things that we would never even consider. And he looked at the other guys and says, "See, Cheap Trick, that's a real band." I swear to God, he said that, Mick had been in Spooky too.
He was kidding around, he's a kidder.
He's so foolish. He appreciated what we were doing, but he was stuck with those other guys.
So then what
Oh,
is
I
it
brought
like
that story
once-
up, I've never mentioned that. That's why I couldn't remember Lou Graham's name.
What was it like after Live at Budokan hit? I mean, that record was so big, that must have changed everything for you guys in some ways, or not. You know, how did that affect you?
It definitely changed our demographics. I mean, we were a band that had 18 to 30-year-olds come to see us. Not that many people, but... And then when Budokan came out, I called it I Want You to Want Me Syndrome. Because it changed our demographics down from that where it was to like 12 to 18 to 21-year-olds.
Not anymore, but 80 or 90.
Now look at them, they've all grown up.
Holy cow.
Robin, back then it was an 18-year-old and a 30-year-old.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was interesting to see Tom on the cover of 16 magazine, you know.
What color does Rick like? Yeah.
And was that interesting, the whole kind of big in Japan phenomenon of you guys being so popular over there? Were you surprised by it when you finally got over there?
We're surprised by anything.
Finally, some people with some good sense. That's what we thought.
It helped.
They're so damn smart, it's unbelievable.
Our manager's saying, look, you guys, this album's not going anywhere. It's going to stay right here in Japan. This is our gift to the country because you're popular here. No one else in the world's going to see it or hear it. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about this lousy picture.
Oops.
In the wisdom of our management and the record company, they waited 20 years to put out the second half of the Budokan record.
The incredible foresight.
Keep it in the vault for a long time.
Yeah. Good idea.
What was it like in
Like
1980 when you guys recorded All Shook Up and finally got to actually work with George Martin as your producer?
Actually, Saturday I'm going to England for George Martin's memorial service.
Right.
So his family sent me a thing. They want me to come over there. I think they want me to bring over some tea and crumpets or something. No, it's going to be good to see the family because we have known him since the 70s. And George is a great guy. I said at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing that we did, I said, besides my father, the most important person in my life was George Martin, as far as people we worked with. And then after, I said, but Kid Rock is third. He gave a tremendous...
You did a great job, right?
We were scared to death, I'd met him once. I don't think the rest of us had met him. And we
called him Bob. I thought he was going to throw something at me.
Thank God we didn't ask Steve Norton to do it. He would have had a few choice words for us and you.
Was it hard working with George Martin? I mean, it must have been a little bit weird knowing that he had produced, these records you idolized.
But he wanted to work with us. I mean, it wasn't hard at all. I like to say that most producers are overpaid and overrated, and he was the one that wasn't. He was a perfect gentleman, and we worked really well together.
Yeah, I think he was one of the first, if not the first, producer who made albums and music as real art. They really just put it out there, and maybe not right at first, but boy, he looked at it. It was a lot of common sense stuff. He was a real down-to-earth guy, and he treated everybody the same. And it was nice. It was like, oh, George Martin, get out of here, speak to my guy. And could you tell George, would he care for a Diet Coke? It wasn't like that. He found
He liked us.
the good things about people, what you were good at, he would bring that out.
Plus, he had the entire collection of Faulty Towers.
He did, yes.
He was watching it every day.
And two producers we worked with in our career that had similarities was Todd Rundgren and George Martin. Todd wanted to quit at 6. George wanted to quit at 6.
We spent 3 weeks making Todd Rundgren's record. We spent 3 weeks making George's record.
Yeah, George wanted to have dinner and watch Faulty Towers, and Todd
we did too.
Todd wanted to turn the satellite on and watch the news and ignore us. True.
If I asked each one of you to tell me a little bit about your sound, your contribution, Robin, your voice is known as one of the great rock and roll voices. how would you describe that? How do you think yourself about your singing style and what you do?
I don't think of myself so much as a singer as I do just a overall musician that used to own the PA. And I got work because of it, you know, what can I say? I became a singer over time. You know, I used to be in a lot of rock bands before Cheap Trick, and it just developed over time.
He's a real singer.
What about you and your guitar style?
What about him?
How did you develop it? What were some of the things you were trying to do over those
I
years?
never wanted to be anybody else, and I don't know that I wanted to be this, but I never wanted to be anybody else. I didn't have a big, like somebody, and
Mike, sorry.
a lot of bands, they wanted to be just like their heroes and stuff. They want to dress up like them and to play like them and have the guitar like them, and I didn't have, no, actually I do, but it's PG here.
Is that what she said?
That's what she said. Okay. So I just developed it because I didn't know how to play, but I knew in my ear what I wanted to hear or what I didn't want to hear. I tried to avoid as much as I could of what I didn't want to hear.
Tom, how about you?
I think because we really all started doing original music pretty early on in our teens, that you kind of develop your own style through, different influences from different artists. And it's a combination of those things, and a lot of times none of that stuff fits with other people, but we all fit together, so it works. So it doesn't necessarily mean you can just, go anywhere and play anything, but it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Tom, let me ask you one other thing too, just to stick with it, because you had even mentioned it at the inductions, Rock Your Speech. And obviously, me being the Vice President of Education, can you talk just for a minute about that program, what you do, and the education outreach you have?
Yes, I started a project called Rock Your Speech, and it's a rock and roll music therapy program for kids for speech therapy. Our son, who's 9, Liam, is autistic, and it really is something that's really near and dear to our hearts, and we live with it every day. But it's the power of music is so strong, and it's such a healing force and a learning force. And it's really, like in schools and everything, it's the first thing they cut out, and it's, they can use it in hospitals and nursing homes, and it just goes on endlessly. And so, rockyourspeech.com, you can go there and check it out.
Awesome, thank you for doing it.
Tom talked about the healing force of music. There's a quote on the Bang Zoom Crazy Hello album that I written for George Martin to speak, which he did back in the All Shook Up album. And it was before he died, I put that in my thank yous. So that's besides the point.
And you can hear that before our shows too. Let's put it in
But you didn't
show.
You have to know what you're listening for because it's pretty hard to hear on there. But music is a healing force, and we've heard from more and more people that, like from the Wolverine Army Hospital and other places that we've gone to, where they said, your music pulled us through. It's like we don't quite know what to say about that because, we've also heard that your music helped us get laid. So there is
That can be a healing force too, Rick, to be fair.
but it's a little more inspirational when you hear about somebody who's getting healed. Although getting laid is not bad either.
Well, it's hard to compete with that.
They're the same thing, basically.
All right, better. I think you guys know we also had out a hashtag Ask Cheap Trick. So I've got a couple questions here we got in from social media.
You're passing out free hash?
The first one comes in from Facebook. Jeff Weaver, he says, whose idea was it to throw out a Kiss album into the crowd during Surrender? I've had it come near me numerous times, and once it bounced off my head when you played in my hometown of Canal Fulton, Ohio. One day I'm going to catch it. He wants to know whose idea it was to start doing that.
Is that the guy that sued us?
Well, who throws it out?
Is it a Kiss record? No, we had to buy those, so we use our own.
Yeah.
We get a bigger discount.
There you go.
They're easier to find used ones.
All right, and the other one comes from Instagram. Seltzer says, let me start by saying the new album, Bang Zoom Crazy Hello, rocks something crazy. Love you guys. My question is, of all the bands you toured with over the last 40 years, Who was your favorite, and what's your favorite memory?
Easy, easy. With Bon Scott.
Right?
That was our favorite. We say it a lot. We toured with a lot of bands, and it's like they were just the best. You know, bare knuckles, bones, rock and roll, straight ahead, no monkey business, no posing. That kind of. It was like Bon Scott was like a pirate. He was the first guy to have the swagger. We knew Alex Harvey. He was a crazy Bon Scott. AC/DC, every night I'd watch him, the whole set. It was the only band I ever watched the whole set. I knew you'd watch our whole set.
That's awesome. All right, well, we've got a big crowd here. I think we're going to try and get a few questions from the audience. Is anybody...
There's Larry David. Hi, Larry. Larry, Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's been a fan of ours for quite a long time.
Very true.
Nice gigs for everybody.
Couldn't get a better seat.
All right, I think we've got a gentleman over here on the side. Casey, you want to run around with the mic? And, sir, keep your hand up so he sees you over there.
Keep your hands down. Put your hands behind your back.
Keep your hands to yourself.
All right.
I'll try. First of all, first time we saw you guys was back in '78 Calderon Concert Hall in Hempstead. That's gone. It was a great show, one of my favorite shows ever. We've seen you a bunch of times since. But my question's really for Tom. Tom, I'm a bass player too. I saw the exhibit downstairs with the 12-string bass, as you kind of created that. So what was the inspiration for that? What was it that made you design a 12-string bass? Because it's got really a unique sound, a unique tone. Just curious about that.
Well, I really wanted a bass and a guitar sound, and really it's a bass and a 12-string guitar sound. So it's like a combination of all sorts of things. It's a combination of Hard Day's Night, George Harrison, and John Entwistle, and Pete Townsend, and Jeff Beck, and all that rolled into one. Just make one big orchestrated sound. So there you go.
That's an awesome way to describe it, by the way. That's great. Okay, here we'll go right here in the front. We got another question.
Keeps you going as far as your new influences or the new challenges to you, contemporary music?
New influences? Well, Robin's the new guy. He's only been in the band since 1974.
You keep rubbing that in, don't you?
It's never going to stop.
I liked, there's one guy that I've liked for many, many years, Jeff Lynne, when he was in Idle Race. I had that first album, there's a song, There was a birthday yesterday night. He has this great voice and a great melody, and he's just gone. Like Jeff Beck's my favorite guitar player. It's just the guy's just gone like this. And Jeff Lynne, he's just gone like this. I mean, if you watch this, he doesn't jump around like an idiot like I do, but
He was great.
Yeah.
He surrounded himself with great players too. I mean, he always was in a great band. In Idle Race, he wasn't even a singer in that band.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I actually went to him and gave him a song that we did. Didn't know I had it. Yeah, I didn't know I had it till I threw it away. We did kind of a version we thought was kind of Jeff Lynne-ish, and gave it to him. Said, "We'd love you to produce this." And he says he heard it. He got back to us. Says, "You don't need me." Well, that was the only song that we did ourselves. And then we had another producer, so we'd be more popular than Tom Petty right now, and better looking. Well, do I look like Mike Campbell? I've got as many guitars as he does.
All right, I think we have one more. The Dream Police over here had his hand up.
Security.
After 5,000 shows, will there be 10,000? Can you guys even go on that far?
You've been to 5,000 of our shows?
No, you guys have played that many.
No wonder.
And will Dax be playing tonight?
Yes, Dax is playing tonight.
Okay, good. Yeah, I love Sing Your Blues Away too. I love that song.
Dax is flying here right now. His wife is having a baby today, we think. And actually, we have Robin's son is going to be here just in case Dax has to go home from the baby. So Robin will maybe play the drums. And maybe I'll go home too.
We're all drummers at heart,
Well, keep doing what you're doing and don't stop.
Yeah, we're too done. We've been saying we've done over 5,000 shows. We've been saying that for 10 years.
5,000, it seems like a lot more, doesn't it?
I think we should start adding it up. And the guy that would know is Kim Gisborne right there.
Kim, what's the realistic figure?
If it's under 5,000, do not say a word.
1,200.
Over 5,000. All right, last question because we got to get you downstairs in a
All
moment.
these hot babes you got down there. Well, not you.
I wanted to ask you guys, what does it feel like now to be inducted finally in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yay.
I mean, they can't back out now.
You're in there,
They're
Tom.
stuck with
Too
us
late,
no matter
man.
what we do.
That's right.
I'd like to pick up my mentor, Steve Miller.
I want to be inducted again. Go twice.
Yeah, it's like, I was too nervous. I never get nervous, but I got nervous there because
It's different speaking in front of an audience than it is singing or playing.
yeah, it's different speaking to an audience rather than insulting them. I know how to insult, but I didn't know how to speak. So
Well, I'll tell you what, thank you so much for coming today, guys. We are so excited to hear you tonight at the benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Trey.